Good evening, Dinesh. Welcome to the show. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening, boys and girls. Welcome to another episode of That's Life. I have with me today Dr. Dinesh Nair. Dr. Dinesh Nair is my buddy from school. We spent our formative years at Loyola School, Jamshedpur. And I'm extremely happy and so pleased to have Dinesh here with us today to share his journey and to share a lot of learnings that could be of use to a lot of young people all around. So, Dinesh, to start this episode, I have the first question to you. Dinesh, tell us a little about your formative years in Jamshedpur.
Uh, Thanks, Atul. First of all, it's a privilege to be here and to be talking to you, my good friend. And I know that we also have other friends here, and I'm also glad that we have an audience of young people who are also joining this. And let's start from there. Our youth, which is, as you rightly said, our really formative years, um, and that formative years in Jamshedpur was really very. I feel very privileged to have gone through that upbringing. Being in Jamshedpur, being in Loyola School, being in a city that had most things working, it's really quite unique. And in a way that prepared us quite a lot for our lives ahead. I I think it was unique that it was not only learning that was important. It was about all round development, and it's about how you it's about just building those skills that were so encashable throughout your lifetime. It's about your communication skills, but it's about your working with other colleagues and team working skills. It's about even even leadership skills, to be able to weave through. I think those are things that really grounded me, and which I feel that really helped almost every one of us to actually use it and build our lives around it. What we learned in class was a very small part of the larger benefits that we gained from that whole environment. And it was unique that we had so many friends and such a homogeneous group of people, which I find very unique in the sense. Say we were all more or less same, working middle class families, coming together with the only single purpose was education and betterment of our lives. And I think India was also at a very unique point in that period where you could see middle class aspirations slowly trying to come up and build, and those things got rubbed onto us. And I saw that was very, very unique and really helped me throughout my lifetime. Let me stop there, but happy to go on.
Wonderful, Dinesh, and I'm so happy you spoke about the skills that we picked up in school: communication skills, team working and collaboration skills, leadership skills. Well, these are some of the skills which are relevant even today, and I'm sure they're going to be relevant going into the future as well. And Dinesh, at that time, I don't think we realized the importance of these skills. We just acquired them because of a system that our school followed. And today,
Yeah.
when I see a lot of kids missing these things, then I wonder what changes may be required in the system so that everybody would have these skills. Dinesh, we had a wonderful library in Loyola School.
Yeah.
And what part did reading play in your development as a person?
That's a very nice question, and I was actually, when I really thought about all of this, I was really thinking of the library, Mrs.
Irani.
Irani, who was there as a librarian. Like, it was like have you ever thought that I would spend my lunchtime going to the library to look at cricketing books, to look at what stroke to play, and what means it was, the library had so much to offer, right? I remember from Jane Austen books to cricketing books, you had everything, and it built a sort of I think it built a sort of culture for reading that I have continued to build on. Actually, I still find it very rewarding as well as relaxing to be able to be with books and to continue to do that. So I think that was really one of the biggest gifts that we had, and to use that to throughout our building up period.
Yes, because that is one skill that I would like all students to actually acquire, the habit of reading and the habit of reflection after you read. So that's
Right.
wonderful, Dinesh. Now, Dinesh, when did you decide that you wanted to become a doctor and how did it happen?
Uh, yeah, yeah. See, these are things that okay, yeah, at the back of your mind, like, we just as I said, most middle class aspirations were, okay, my child goes on to become an engineer or to become a doctor. So somehow those things get rubbed on into you as you go on. But it's also, yeah, life plays its own games, and you reach in certain points at certain places to be able to do that. And I think I was pretty like it being going into medicine was always a part of my, I think, inner, I would say it was my inner desire, or I wouldn't really say calling, because I don't know. It was more was, okay, what is the next thing that you have to get over, and you just do those things. And but yeah, we went to Calcutta. I went to Calcutta to do my finish my schooling, and the Calcutta system was one of the ones that offered me a place in medical school. So I
Oh,
actually moved
wow.
into that. So that was how I ended up there.
And which medical college was it in Calcutta?
I was with the Arjikar Medical College. This is in Calcutta, one of the four medical colleges in Calcutta in the north. And yeah, I found that was also a very unique experience. It was it. This is where I saw that our like very protected environment in Jamshedpur and the school, and you get into a regular medical school,
Hmm.
and you see the heterogeneity in society, you see the diversity in society. That's where you begin to realize that, okay, this is the school was very good and it helped you to do certain things. But when you go into these medical schools, and you are faced with, you see a huge number of different sort of people who come into these schools, from people from vernacular mediums to, and you then begin to see how life is different, and how society is made up of so many different people. You begin to real, like, in our schooling age, we rarely used to see the, like, things like religion or caste. It never even affected us as much,
Absolutely right.
and you get into these as, and it's only here that you began to even fathom some of the depth of these things. It was like, I've never really thought much about politics, but being in the Calcutta system, politics was part of the
Part
life
of the
there.
air,
So
yeah, the air
yeah,
in
so part of
Calcutta.
the air. So you begin to see those parts of life, I think just like in school, this was a very different education for me. While, of course, the textbook learning was part, but life itself was a different, became a different learning experience, because you saw that it was so much bigger, and there were like there's such a lot of India's diversity was so much more evident there.
Wow, that's great. And Dinesh, I can see that you've also done a PG course from Tata Institute of Social Sciences. This was in
Yeah.
healthcare management. So, could you tell us a little more about your stint there? And did you work for a few years before you went in for that?
Yeah, that is yeah. My coming to what I am now, I
Hmm.
consider myself as a more as a public health specialist. Moving, so it's a very smaller, much smaller, less attractive part of medicine. Of course, though with COVID now, that has become such a central part of our of public health and care. But yeah, after medical school, I went to Madhya Pradesh and I was working in rural Madhya Pradesh in Shadol with the
Okay.
coal mines.
All right. And
And
this was
I
what?
was,
CCL?
I was, yeah, with the southeastern coal mines. And I
Okay.
was a young medical doctor in the coal mines.
Wow.
And this was again when we are talking about life's journey, and this is again where life takes you to a completely different environment, and where I you are in a mining environment. You have labor that is there. You're dealing with labor unions. You begin to see petty corruption. So just like so as you began to do that, my learning was also more about people, about society, about how the industry was working and how you fit in within that. And that gave me a much better appreciation of while I was doing healthcare, to see that there could be other roles that I could play. And that's where I think moving towards public health became much more attractive when I went and did a master's course in the Tata Institute at Bombay on public health administration, which basically took me down through a path that was a little bit more off beaten path than the usual, where you would be a practicing physician or a great ophthalmologist like Grover, to being a more office based public health specialist. So that's where that was my what do you call the divide in the road, where I took that point
You took
towards
the other folk. Yeah, you took
yeah.
that. So, you know, was it the state of public health in the country at that moment which prompted you to go into this area?
It's it was it the state like I thought it was a very underappreciated area.
Hmm.
Actually, why I went was because, say, you usually begin to see people like at least about 30 years, 25 years ago, there was less appreciation, at least definitely even today in India, but at least there is much better appreciation in the West now about the role of public health and public health administration, because public health was like the bottommost rung. It is the
Hmm.
dregs.
Hmm.
Okay,
Hmm.
you just have to do this. Acha, वो कैंटीन साफ है कि नहीं देखो,
Hmm.
ओ अच्छा संडास साफ किया है कि नहीं कोई,
Hmm.
somebody is taking care of all of that. To actually, I thought it was a much
Get some
underappreciated
DDT
area.
sprayed, when it's monsoon
Yeah,
time,
whether you had
things
DDT
of that
spray,
kind. Yes,
yeah, or whether there were too many rabid dogs
correct.
that I had to manage in society.
Yes,
So I thought it was a very underappreciated area, and I thought maybe this is something I I felt attracted towards. I didn't know what the career options, or it was still an evolving. It was There's a little bit of a
Nascent.
risk at
Yeah.
that stage
Very
to
nascent
actually
stage.
move into that.
Hmm.
I had a lot of people advise me why you want to leave this to move this. You're doing this. Why you want to become a pen pusher? But that was a it was, at least I felt a little bit passionate towards it, and I thought, what yeah, it is worth the risk. Why not do it? So not, I don't think it was, maybe it was too much bravado, but anyway,
But
I did
but
jump into it,
but
and
you've done so
yeah.
well, Dinesh. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, let me tell you a little about my friend and what he does these days. Instead of introducing, at the beginning, what I like is as you go through the journey, then you introduce the personality. So, Dr. Dinesh Nair has been with the World Bank now for the past 15 years plus, and at present, he is in an executive leadership position in Beijing, China, where he looks after health, population, nutrition. Would you like to tell us a little more about what you are doing at present, Dinesh?
See, the World Bank is a multilateral institution, and my role is basically supporting health systems in the countries. So I currently work on two countries, China and Mongolia, and these are the two countries that I work with. And in China, we are involved with a large health system reform project. So basically, it's reforming, because see, my work in China is very interesting. Is with economic growth, what has happened is people are just going, just like in India. Everybody goes to these hospitals.
Hmm,
They want they want the highest level of care. But if you look at it, this is expensive care,
hmm,
and you rarely need that level of high level expensive care. What you need, because what are China's problems is with aging population, with the non-communicable diseases, and this is where we are also, the India is also headed in that same direction. You begin to see that you will have more non-communicable diseases like cardiovascular diseases, diabetes, cancers, or so you need more basic continuous care, and that's where the basic level of care systems are important. So trying to change that, the health system towards that, is what one of my tasks here. And similarly in Mongolia, which is a very small country, but which is highly urbanized, but with high air pollution, and creates a lot of respiratory tract diseases. So to how to deal with that, and how to build a health system that is much more takes care of that.
that's wonderful, Dinesh. So, the work that you are doing now, is it more of back room or are you also on the front line a lot of times?
I am on the front lines a lot of times, but the work is mainly dealing with the leaderships in
Hmm,
these countries,
hmm.
leaderships in terms within the government, in terms of their policies, in
Plus
terms of
planning, strategizing, and all those
yeah,
things.
strategizing.
Hmm.
Of course, it takes you to the front lines. You begin to see the villages. You
Yeah,
begin
to
to
see
see,
the progress and to see
yeah,
what needs
you
to
see
be
the
done.
progress. You monitor the progress. You see, you define goals. You define targets, and you see that. So it takes you. So while most of the work is policy and strategy related, it does take you to the front lines too.
And Dinesh, I see that you've worked in Bangladesh, you worked in India, you worked in Nigeria, now you're working in China, Mongolia. So, how has this journey been? It's a multicultural journey that you've had, and I'm sure you've picked up a lot of things at various places. Now, which place would you call your home, or where would you like to settle down after you retire? When you retire? There's still a long
Yeah,
way to go.
but yeah, just like the journey, just give me taking a moment to continue that journey. It's like this. Like in some ways, you begin to see as you move. As I have been very fortunate to really be in these places and live in these places for years. So, like I was in Bangladesh for 6 years, Nigeria for 3 years, now in China for 3 years. And you see, fundamentally, people are all very similar. We all we all care for our families. We all want the same betterment of what we want. Most people want harmony. Most people value the small things in life. So
Beautiful.
it's the same. So I've seen how the even in Nigeria, people trying to get better, make life better for their families. Be it here in China, to see that, okay, how can I get work that will keep me going and not free money. So it just makes you really think that we are all so similar across the world. And we all have the same aspirations, same, more or less the same values, and how we, it's not so difficult when you get to the base level to really interact and to live. To respond to your question, what does all this mean? Yeah, to be frank, yeah, finally it just takes me back. Means for me, I'm like the homing bird, just going back home is coming back to India, coming back to my roots, living there, and to that's where my home is. And but in a way, you also grown. So I also worry quite a bit. How will I fit in, or what will, because it's those inner fears that are there. But that's how you want to be able to live the rest of your life, living with your own people, contributing to society, to be part of that, and to use some of this back in your own context, is what I would aspire for. But let's say, I think that's where I see myself going back to home, going back maybe to Kerala, going back to live there. But yeah, going back to be with you, friends. So that's where I see myself.
Yes, we'd love that, Dinesh. And Dinesh, tell me, at what point of time did you get married?
This is that's those were interesting days. We could go on. There's those my Yeah, I got married when I just had started 1 year in the coal mines. And it was really, I'll just take a minute to
Sure,
explain.
sure. I'd love to know that.
Yeah, it was like we got married in Kerala, and of course, we came. I was working in as a doctor, and there, Doctor Babu was like, okay, in that small coal mine area, you were like, you were Doctor Babu to bahu ko leke aaya hai, and you could see I got
The
down
welcome, the grand
to
welcome.
dusty railway station where there is no taxi, so you have the only vehicle is an ambulance.
Oh,
So
wow.
took my wife in the ambulance to our home, where the labor unions had set up all the flashy lights
Oh, God.
to invite the this
Welcome
thing.
you.
So that's where we started our journey together, and it's now over 30 years.
And your wife, Rema, is she a healthcare professional too, or she
My
is.
my wife Rama has made a lot of sacrifices. She's been much more. No, she's not from the healthcare profession. She's been quite innovative, and has been able to continue to keep herself satisfied, and working in different environments. In starting from schools, in working with schools in Mumbai, to working with a physically challenged NGO
Wow.
in Delhi, to working with the High Commission, British High Commissions in Dhaka and Nigeria, and with the Salvation Army in US. So it's been yeah, like she's evolved herself into all these different roles as we have moved on. But I'm glad that we are still together, despite my being a difficult partner.
And you had a stint with DFID,
Yeah, I
UK.
did
Yeah.
work with, yeah, before moving to the bank, I worked for 6 years with the UK
Hmm.
Department for International Development.
Hmm. So tell us a little more about your work with DFID.
Yeah, that's again, that's say, Okay, yeah, yeah, yeah. I think yeah.
That was in
After
India.
mines and after doing my Tata work with Tatas, I was working at that time in the urban slums in Mumbai. So
Hmm.
I worked in some of the slum areas like Dharavi and others, and I did some very interesting work with tuberculosis patients at that point of time. And one of the good things as a result of that was after that I moved to working with tuberculosis with the Department for International Development, that is the DFID, and we did large projects in Andhra Pradesh with at that time the TB was we had this DOTS that was being
Hmm.
started, which
Dots,
is
yes.
the Direct Observed Treatment short course. So that was being started and trying getting that rolled out in one province was what I was doing at that time with the DFID.
That's wonderful, Dinesh. Now, Dinesh, you have two daughters.
Yes.
And how have they taken to all this travel? And did they also move around with you to different countries? And what about their education?
Yeah, the good thing was we had they had the benefit. My both my daughters grew up parts in India between Mumbai and Delhi, and then finished the last 5 6 years of their schooling in Dhaka. So they traveled with us in a way. Yeah, they have also become like a partly third world. So basically been moving around with us, so having seen different parts of the world. But and They finished their education. One of them lives back in Bangalore now, working with a startup, and my other daughter is in Washington DC, where she is pursuing her life and her career
So Bhavna
there.
is in Bangalore,
No, Arti is in
Aarti is in
Bangalore,
Bangalore, and Bhavna is in US.
and Bhavna is in Washington, and they're both pursuing their own lives and careers
And
now.
now, how often do you get to meet?
Usually before COVID, we were lucky. We were in Washington DC for 5 years before we moved to Beijing. But otherwise, before COVID, we would at least meet them maybe at least twice in a year. But this year has been more difficult, and it will get to a year since we met with both of them.
So, Dinesh, since you mentioned COVID and you are an expert in epidemiology, if I'm right, and industrial health. So, the way diseases spread and all that, I was going through the definition of epidemiology. And COVID, of course, must have been a defining moment for everybody in the industry and somebody as senior as you and in such a role. So, would you like to enlighten us a little more about COVID and how you are involved with the efforts that are going on and what can we look forward to?
Yeah, I won't take too much time on that because yeah, let's say this is see yeah this is a pandemic, and we have it's it's a once in a lifetime pandemic, and we are the unfortunate to have to see this during this in our lifetimes. And and I think the damage that it has caused to economy, to people's health, to people's to
Lives.
education, to lives, it's going to be it will take a long time to undo a lot of that. I think we know that because of the iniquities in our society, because it's always the poor and the vulnerable who have who face the most of the challenges from this.
Yes.
So it will be the poor and the vulnerable who are most who face the health issues with COVID in terms of being able to access to healthcare, being able to find the right health support, to not get into financial shocks because of the healthcare. It's for children to be out of school because of that, because and if you're not literate, IT literate, then you are the ones who are going to
Yes.
be most vulnerable. So our society is becoming much more fractured, and the inequities are becoming much more profound with this pandemic, and which is very sad. So I do see it's also in a way created our world to become more isolationist, uh, becoming much more insular, becoming more politically divided. It's so much more complex. I think globally too, we will see these how things will change in terms of it's much more every person for himself, or every country for its own. So jobs, transportation, moving between societies, supply chains are all going to become much more different. I think we will see huge changes in workplace. I think things like, okay, just getting on a flight and move from one place to other, things like that is going to change. I heard recently from my daughter that till next September, everybody is working from home.
Yes.
So it's going to be a very different world that we will see possibly as we go on, and that's going to be very different.
Yes. A lot of paradigms are changing and have changed. So, Dinesh, now let's go into something which is more entertaining. And, I'd like to know a little more about your favorite films, your favorite food, your favorite book, some of your favorite things, your favorite destinations, your favorite wine.
Yeah. Okay, let's start with the last.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah, I like Grover's this thing, Grover Wines.
Yeah, we all love
I
Grover.
would say, but yeah, I moved on to drinking, moving away from drinking hard liquor to just enjoying a glass of wine,
Yeah, that's why I said wines.
a glass of beer, which is which is a good way for me to sometimes
Unwind.
yeah, unwind after a busy week, or at the end of a tough day.
Hard day and
Uh,
night.
in terms of I love watching movies. I find it very relaxing. I love watching political thrillers and fast-paced action movies. Or I just the last one I watched was this week, was a four-part serial called Spy, an Israeli a serial which I thought was very interesting and very well done. um, yeah, I watch all sorts of movies, from Malayalam to Tamil to Hindi to English. I like foreign language movies, as long as they have good subtitles. So I do enjoy a range of movies that are there. I do enjoy traveling. Some of the best places I've been is seeing the gorillas in Rwanda, in the mountains in Rwanda, which was one of my most fascinating experience. I think is was one of my best holidays. I so it's I yeah there's I take time to now continue go back to reading. I recently started both with reading, to alternate it with Audible, just to give
Hmm.
try different ways of reading. So it gives me at least read different and read faster in certain different genres of literature.
Yeah,
So
Audible is
that's
good.
what I love to
And have
do.
you also engaged with the Kindle?
Yeah,
No.
the Kindle I do read. That's how I read because books are very hard to get physically. So Kindle, I'm reading currently an interesting book called Beyond the Beautiful Forevers. It's a Catherine Boo Pulitzer Prize winner, which is an interesting book that I'm reading now.
All right. Now, Dinesh, tell me, did you ever think about writing something yourself, a book or a blog or some such thing?
I don't know if I it would be it could be. I've not really put much thought into it, to be tell you frankly, but um, yeah, I really want to do something. I'm more into doing things. I'm keen to find the right. I'm still looking at these right right things to engage myself much more fully as I try to get away from a regular work to doing something that is much more personally rewarding. Things that attract me. So I'm okay. Yeah, I haven't really thought about putting it down, but yeah, I hope I can live a full life and contribute still.
Of course. And what do you do normally at the end of a hard day, apart from the beer or the glass of wine?
At the yeah, I'm now trying to spend an hour, very just because just to help me relax much more to read is what I'm trying to do. Frankly, at the end of a hard day, just to try to read for about at least half an hour or 1 hour to before, because the problem is also now with the technology there is so much you can catch up on online. You can through WhatsApp. There is such a lot of stuff that is available to read, bits and pieces, but actually to read something that is continuous. I try to leave at least the last half an hour of the day to do that.
Wonderful. And Dinesh, it has been my experience that if you're a great reader, you can always become a great writer, because somebody who has read will be able to write. Somebody who's a good listener can become a great speaker. This is something I tell my students too, that before you want to become a leader, become a follower. Before you want to become a speaker, become a listener. And before you want to become a writer, become a reader. So it's a great habit, Dinesh, and I'm very sure there are a lot of things inside you which can come out by way of a video blog, or a book, or some such thing.
I'll follow up with you on that.
Yes, sure, and I'll be able to help you. If anybody wants to write a book, they can get in touch with me. I would help them get it on the shelves within 1 month. If they're willing to work at a pace that I set for them, within 1 month they would be able to have it on the shelves. So that's great. Now, Dinesh, let's go back and look at our lives, and then look at the lives of young people who are about to enter the workforce in the next 1 or 2 years. What would be your advice to these people? How can they prepare now for the post pandemic world, and for a world that is seeing a lot of volatility, seeing a lot of uncertainty? What are the skills that they need to pick up? What is the kind of mindset that they need to approach life with?
That's a very important question, and yeah, and we can see how things have changed over these years, and which is going to become so much more profound as we go on after the pandemic. I can remember my dad worked 40 years in the same institution. I was lucky, at least I moved a few jobs in my lifetime. And when I look at my children and the young people, it's you can see how things are going to be so much different. My first point is, see, all the education you have done is great, and I think this puts you in a good place. But be prepared first for a lifelong process of learning.
Beautiful.
Because what is going to be important is, it's like you will have to continuously find new ways to upgrade skills, to find what is the niche, to find the way that things are. Because I'm now seeing people are looking at different things. People may be having steady jobs or done it, but now they're beginning to learn at, how do I do gaming, or how do I do something else, how do I do digital selling, because things have changed. It's no longer brick and mortar shops. So that's number one, a lifetime of learning, which is, I think, very important. A second is, which I think is going to be inevitable, is embrace technology. Because without embracing technology, you're always going to be, because society is just inequitable. Otherwise, you will be left out of many things. You have to embrace, use the, and young people are so much better at that. So to be able to actually get and to just absorb those technologies so much easier. So you have to embrace technology, be skilled, and try to build those skills so that you can continue to move ahead. I think the third is, there is going to be volatility in the market, and you don't have to. We all need to survive, but also continue to follow your passion. Because finally, beyond the job, that, okay, which is very important for each one of us. There is has to be some passion that will, because the passion will show you where you have to go. Because I think that is that should be the real driver, so that you can find, you will be willing to accommodate many of the brunts of life, because life work is never going to be simple. It's going to be hard, and you will be able to absorb a lot of the shocks, because at least the passion is a defining factor in what you want. So yeah, these are some things, at least three things that I would want the young people to think about it, because I do wish them great careers and great lives. But you have to be prepared to embrace technology, to be
A
to be
lifelong learner,
yeah,
and to have
lifelong learner.
passion, and along
Yeah,
with that, always have compassion.
yeah.
That I think is very, very important. So, Dinesh, we are coming to a stage where we have a couple of our friends here, and I'm going to call them to the meeting, and they would also be asking you questions. So, I have with me our childhood buddy Ashok MS from Bangalore and Dr. Sandeep Grover from the US. So, Sandeep and Ashok, please join us. And yes, Dinesh would be happy to take a few questions from you. In the meantime, let me check if there are any questions from the audience as well. Yes, please. You can unmute Ashok and Sandeep.
Hi, Dinesh. It was nice to hear about your life journey. It's always good to catch up with friends and see what we did 40 years back. We sound old, but or maybe even more than 40 years back, and what all has happened for with you. So that's a tremendous journey that you have had. So congratulations on that. You brought up a very hot topic of COVID. So it is really unfortunate that this happened, and it is unique in itself, anyways. But I think it has become more of a problem with politicizing it, and COVID is not pro Modi or anti Modi. COVID is
Correct.
not Democratic or Republican. It affects everyone, and I wish that we would fight as a team rather than be divided in the fight. So, but on the other hand, I think it has changed a few things very fast. I mean, those changes would have happened in 5 to 10 years, and it happened right away. Like, for example, telehealth. So, telehealth was coming.
Mm.
Insurance companies would not pay for telehealth.
And
And
it's
then
arrived.
suddenly, 1 month into COVID, everything was put into place.
Yeah, it's in your face
That-
now.
yeah, and that was very helpful for us as well as for the patients.
Mhm.
So,
No, true, Sandeep. I completely agree. This has really fast-tracked, at least on the technology side, into development, where things have really moved very fast. And as you said, healthcare is one of those biggest beneficiaries. I can see, as you rightly said, insurance now pays for telehealth. You most people are now taking, even they're like very. I was listening to, hearing how they're using even pulse oximeters at home-based
Yes,
pulse
absolutely.
oximeters. So very unique and very using very. And what is great about India in those contexts is how you can turn around this technology into low cost solutions. And they would basically put the use the TV to show the time and just put the pulse oximeter there, and okay, you have real time monitoring there.
Yes, Ashok.
Yeah, hi Dinesh and everybody. This was really nice to hear Dinesh and his journey. And yes, one of the things I think we as Loyalians, as whenever we talk to our friends, we find that each one of us seem to have, beaten a path of,
A different path.
quite differently from what everybody else. So we are not on part of the bandwagon, so to say. Dinesh, very heartening to note the choices you made in terms of saying that I'm a doctor, but I intend to do something which is different, still being a doctor. Uh, what could you talk of some of the major challenges on this line? I mean, you did mention the fact that there was this fear of the unknown in terms of what kind of career does that give, but I'm sure that you have at some point in time during this journey faced some difficult choices, and how did you stick through this?
Yeah. Thanks. Those that's Yeah, that is very important, and it's also which sometimes I look at my own where I am in my career, and you look at yourself and you think, is it career by design or career by choice? It's like, or I'm failing the right word to say that, but because if I wanted to end up in this same place, I know there are better ways to doing what I have ended up doing, because so I always feel that that challenge in my work also is because, okay, I started out as a medical doctor who's now doing public health administration, but you could have been doing an economics degree and you could be a better economist, a public health economist in the bank than possibly some of the skills that possibly which will put you in an equal or better position in terms of that. So, but I think just like that, what I just said, each one of us brings a different perspective, and I think we all should value that diversity. So, which is one of the best things I learned from this whole journey into being a public health specialist is how you, like, doctors are, I pardon me, Grover, but we are a little bit, I always feel, too conceited and sometimes too, okay, we know we are technical experts of this thing, but we are not so welcoming of diversity and about how different people can make the same thing. So I've learned that the hard way, about how it is important to really see the role that nurses can play, or to see the role that, let's say, nutritionist plays, in terms of the, or be it a physical medicine. So you begin to see and you begin to question yourself. You don't have all the answers. So I think in a way, I have begun to appreciate that, and possibly while I bring a particular value to this table, there are others who bring other different angles to it, and I
Absolutely.
think together we
Very,
make it.
very, very well said.
I
Absolutely.
will. I will also say. I think you are in an excellent position because one of the major problems of public health is that people who are administering public health are not physicians. And
Mhm.
No,
so they have really not seen patients. They do not know the atmosphere of the clinic, the hospital, the nursing, and all. They've just theoretically they know about it. And then they make policies which may not be good when you try to carry them out in the field. So having a physician being in the seat of a public health official, I think brings a lot more practicality to it. And so I think you are one of the right people in that job.
you're the
Thank
right
you.
fit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly.
You're a square pole in a square hole. You're the right fit. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm very happy to tell you that the two gentlemen who just joined us during this Q&A round, Mr. MS Ashok is going to be our guest next Sunday, and Dr. Grover, though he is very reluctant to come up and he says, "What will I say for 1 hour?" He's going to be our guest the Sunday after next. So, after
Oh
Ashok,
boy.
so this is a preview to you, and you should really look forward to these two gentlemen coming here and sharing their life's journeys with us. And yes, Dinesh, what is the last message, one single message which you would like to give to the youth who are aspiring to be good people, and I'm sure people who would do things for others? So, what is one message that you would like to give them?
Uh, yeah, that's a tremendous burden. If it is one message, I think value each interaction, each experience, because
Wow,
you don't know when that comes and what learning that will bring you at some point. And I
beautiful,
think um, I don't want to explain it further, because some of that very early days learning in that coal mine, being a doctor there, was something that I still, when I sit so many miles away in an office, I still think about those times and what that learning actually gives. So don't underestimate each
beautiful,
interaction and each learning experience, because they
profound.
are all going to pay out in some point.
Profound, wonderful. This is something that will really bring mindfulness into them. You know, that
Yeah.
is something which will then give them rich rewards in the future. Now, on a lighter note, and as we come to the end of this episode, Dinesh, while you were at Loyola School, had you ever imagined that one day you would be sitting here with Ashok, Sandeep Grover, Atul Sharma in such an episode? How did you feel? You know, and how do you feel? I'm sure you never imagined this, or did you?
No, I never imagined. Could we imagine like how things have become so different? How again technology has brought us all so much closer. How it would have been unimaginable to expect that you would continue to have that same link to a same class, to a same school that we all grew up in, and we are continuing that conversation and using that conversation to actually influence others itself. It's mind boggling. um I think at least this is a great that we can still connect, and fundamentally how that bonding is always there for us to rely on, to be the food for thought for each one of ourselves.
Absolutely. And so, on that note, friends, we'd like to end this episode. And we thank Dr. Dinesh Nair for his gracious presence here on the show. And we thank him for the great ideas that he shared with us, the great wisdom the great knowledge. And friends, you can't go through all experiences yourself. It is through the experiences of others that you learn about life in so many different ways. That's life. And ladies and gentlemen, next Sunday we are going to have with us MS Ashok, and the Sunday after that, our elusive Dr. Sandeep Grover is going to be with us. So, hope to see you next Sunday. And until then, stay safe, stay blessed. Thank you very much. Thank you, Dinesh. Thank you, Ashok. Thank you,
Thank you,
Sandeep.
Thank you.
everybody.
Thank you,
Thanks, Atul.
viewers.
Thanks, Ashok and
Thank you,
Grover.
everybody.
Thank
Guys, have
you.
a good night ahead. Bye
Yes,
bye.
Good
have
night.
a great night ahead. Bye bye.